So good morning. Let me welcome you to this very special symposium to celebrate the 75th anniversary of what in essence is the founding of the Division of Analytical Chemistry. It turned out that earlier this year, in talking with Lane Baker, who actually is responsible for coercing me into organizing and chairing this session, he and I were sort of thinking together about which areas in our discipline might be most representative of the broad spectrum of research in this field. And ultimately, I think when you think about chemistry, almost anyone who isn't even a labeled analytical chemist does analytical chemistry. So everybody who's a chemist probably is an analytical chemist of one kind or another. So I don't know how many people saw the recent article by Roland Hirsch that showed up in Analytical Chemistry perhaps a couple of months ago. But leading off his 4-page article in Analytical Chemistry was this, what you might call a logo to designate the sort of prominent areas in our discipline. And if we start from the 12 o'clock to the 3 o'clock quadrant, you can see what I would call a mass spectrum. And as we go clockwise, we then encounter a cyclic voltammogram. And then we move continually then to something that looks like spectrochemistry and finally chromatography. And even before I saw this quote-unquote logo, I was struck by the fact that together Lane Baker and I just perhaps serendipitously found a set of speakers for this symposium that exactly mimic this set of little quadrants. So it's kind of interesting in retrospect. So I want to offer for you, particularly the younger people, just a very brief overview of how our division came to be. And you can read this as well as I can say it, so I won't go into great detail. But you step back to the late 1930s, and the important thing is that analytical chemists per se had no real identifiable entity within our ACS. But they were actually members of a section of the Division of Physical and Inorganic Chemistry. And now, 75 years ago, that's why we talk about the 75th anniversary, a division of microchemistry of ACS was formed with W.R. Turner as the chairperson and L.T. Hallett as the secretary-treasurer. Anybody know who Larry Hallett is or was? Exactly. It's only us old fogies. I won't use what? Hey. But anyway, Larry Hallett was one of perhaps the first editor of Analytical Chemistry. In 1940, we learned that the Division of Microchemistry merged with the analytical section of the Division of Physical and Inorganic Chemistry to establish a separate division of Analytical and Microchemistry. And finally, officially in 1949, the last of these preceding divisions adopted its present name, the Division of Analytical Chemistry. The January 1949 issue of Analytical Chemistry carried an editorial announcing that the goal for the division for that year would be getting 1,000 members for the division. Unfortunately, it took several more years for that aspiration to be realized. I just want to take a moment, and for those of you who are of a historical bent, there's a wonderful volume edited by Herb Lightman and Galen Ewing called A History of Analytical Chemistry, published in 1977, a wonderful book for those of you who want to sort of track how analytical chemistry evolved. And then, as I've already mentioned, there's this recent article in Analytical Chemistry by Roland Hirsch, and there's the citation. And again, I'd like to thank Lane Baker for behind the scenes working to make this symposium a reality. Now let's take a quick look at the roster of speakers. We're going to begin the first half of this symposium with talks by Graham Cooks dealing with mass spectrometry, followed by Bill Heinemann, who will talk about electrochemistry. Time permitting, we'll have a 20-minute break to be followed by discussions, talks by Gary Hefia on spectrochemical analysis and Milos Novotny with respect to chromatography. So without further ado, let me call to the rostrum Professor Graham Cooks, who will be our lead-off speaker. Thank you very much.